Hey, Clemson family, right off the bat, let's just say congratulations, FSU. I don't want any of the things that we're going to run through here to sound like excuses or anything. Florida State won the game fair and square, outplayed Clemson when a lot of teams wouldn't have in that fourth quarter. Let's get into it.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Yeah, it feels like the Tigers could be 4-0. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? But they're 2-2, and there's a clear reason why they're 2-2.
Yep, I think everybody knows it already. We'll get into that as well as some of the good things that we did see for Clemson against Florida State. No moral victories, but some things to create a little hope. This is the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. We are glad you found us. This is season two. Fabulous technological advancement here this year. As we get into the season, hopefully we're getting a little better week by week. You can tell us on Twitter at Clemson Kickoff. You can tell us in the comments on youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Every episode is there. You can find our archives there. You'll also find kickoff times as they are announced. Our homepage is clemsonkickoff.com. Please don't use an at. I'll start getting emails about what an idiot I am. Let's get to it so we can get through it. One play? Was it one play, Daniel?
I felt like one play changed the entire complexion of the game. I did. Clemson's up 7. Looks like it's driving, or is driving. It's on Florida State's half of the field. I thought they had moved the ball the whole game. And then Cade Klubnik gets sacked. There's a fumble. FSU picks it up and returns it for a touchdown, ties the game. And then it's at least, you feel like it's at least a 10-point swing, where if Clemson would kept driving, they maybe get down there and kick a field goal. We don't know with the way Clemson's kicking game is going. It could have been a 14-point swing, but at the very least, it is a 7-point swing. And if you don't have that fumble and the return, you have a 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and Florida State has to work offensively to get those points in the second half. And they had not really moved the ball much at all in the second half of that game. So I don't know, Dabo Swinney says that, one play or two plays from winning the game, maybe, but I definitely feel like one play changed the entire game and probably changed the outcome of the game as well.
Yeah, and an all too familiar type of mistake, right? Rooted in fundamentals, something that just should not have happened. Whether you want to say, as Dabo Swinney did, that hey, Phil Maffa missed his assignment, it looked to me like he committed too far into the middle of the scrum there, too far to the left side of the pocket, had no chance by the time that delayed blitz happened, and it wasn't all that delayed, but by the time that guy started coming for the pocket, Maffa never could have gotten that far back out to the right side to be able to stop him. And then Klubnik, uh, young player, still gaining experience. So many things I liked about him in this game. But on that play, it was one of the ones where he held the ball too long. And boy, did he pay a price for it on that particular play. Overall, what I really liked, even though it's part of what contributed to that fumble, was his ability. We said right before we started we were going to talk defense. Here we are jumping right into the offense. What I really liked about Klubnik was his ability to keep his eyes downfield, to not bail backwards, to not do those crazy deep scrambles to the left or to the right. He stayed focused. He stepped up in the pocket. He slid sideways. He kept his attention on his receivers and who might be getting open. And that made a lot of difference in the Clemson offense looking much better in hitting receivers in stride. And quite frankly, some of it may have been improvement on the offensive line and providing those passing lanes that we've alluded to at times.
Couple of things. I thought he played his best game.
Yeah.
I thought, you could talk about the UNC game and the ACC championship game. He played better Saturday than he did in that game. I thought he really has improved seeing the field, or at least he did Saturday. And hopefully that's a step in the right direction of continuing to get better. If you don't want this to be the end game, this is just a step. And then he also, Bill, in that kind of game, you have to know one tap, two taps on the ball. I got to get rid of the ball against that kind of team. Yeah, that's going to work against Florida Atlantic. It's going to work against Charleston Southern. It might work against some other defenses in the ACC. It's not going to work against that kind of athletes on defense that Florida State has. And a third thing is, you could see that coming from the press box as soon as the ball was snapped. That it opened up and was the perfect call by Florida State. You have to give them credit too.
Oh yeah.
But that's a hell of a team over there. And I feel better about Clemson's offense and Clemson's defense, and I know we'll talk about the defense as well, than I did coming out of the Duke game.
Sure.
Look, I'm not moral victories guy, never will be. But because you have to win the game, and they didn't win the game. But if you can't see the improvements this team has made from Labor Day night until to this week, you just don't want to see it. And I'm usually negative Nancy. Everybody knows that. But this team has improved, but you have to find a way to not turn the ball over. You have to find a way to cause turnovers. Clemson, they had chances. They didn't make a couple of plays where they could have caused some turnovers. And you got to find a way to win the game.
Yeah. I mean, now the next step, I think, for Klubnik is, as he's developing that focus and that awareness downfield, he can't lose track, or really he has to improve, I would say, overall, because this has been a recurring problem. That pocket awareness, that awareness of everybody behind the line, quite frankly, because some of the problems have been on end blitzes, just like the one against Florida State. There was one on the left side against Duke where I believe it was Tristan Lee was in at left tackle on that play. He got beat badly, and Klubnik's got to be able to see, hey, yeah, I got to pull this in. I got to just, fall on the ball. I got to run for a yard away from this, Brahma bull coming at me. Somebody large and fast is coming at you from any direction. Obviously advisable to maybe go the other way and salvage what you can. Live to fight another play, maintain possession of the football.
Right.
And that was a problem with DJ Uyunglele as well. So I don't know if that comes down to something that was a shortcoming under Brandon Streeter, and now Garrett Riley is trying to make up for lost time. I don't know if it's just, hey, Magic Johnson had great court vision, and the next guy that came along and played point for the Lakers did not, right? I mean, some people have that and some people don't. I think there's reason to believe that Klubnik is building it because of how he did a much better job of seeing downfield in that game. So the next step is to, while maintaining that ability, develop that sense of what's going on across the offensive backfield as well. And for him to perform top to bottom as well as he did without Antonio Williams, without Walker Parks, look, when you're matching up against a team like FSU, depth is part of the equation in determining who's going to win the game. No excuses. But on a man-to-man level and assessing how Klubnik played without all of his A-listers surrounding him, pretty happy.
I would give him an A+, except for two plays, the fumble, and then the play in overtime. But I blame the coaches for that. I absolutely, the 3rd and 1, I blame the coaches, and I don't think they lost the game because of the 3rd and 1,
right?
But they threw the ball in 2 straight plays. They got 9 yards, and then threw the ball on 3rd down and 4th down.
Yeah.
Now they lost a couple of yards on 3rd and 1, but it was 2nd and 1, or 3rd and 1. I'm sorry, and then they lost, the yardage there. So I thought he played great, except for those 2 plays. I really did. Bill, the guy, he found guys open, and I said last week, I don't think Florida State secondary is very good.
Right.
And they exposed Florida State secondary. Brenning Stoll was open. Tyler Brown, my goodness, has become a revelation. What about
missing
Stellato?
For the middle half of the game as well? Right. And love to see him gritty and gutty and coming back out there and making a key play in the 4th quarter after getting hurt early.
I thought he was out after he landed on his shoulder and got kicked in the head at the same time as the Florida State defender jumped over him. Because I thought he had a concussion when it first happened, but it was more the shoulder, collarbone kind of area. What about Stellato? I mean, making big plays. Bo Collins making big plays. Adam Randall,
great catch,
making a couple of big plays. So the running game was really good. The offensive line, even without Parks, I thought played really, really well. You watch Florida State against LSU, and I thought, oh my gosh, how are they going to block those monsters up front? And I thought for the most part, he had a clean pocket.
Yeah.
He had time to throw the ball. Maybe that gave him too much confidence on that one play where he's patting the ball, but you can't make that play. And then I'm sorry, the 3rd and 1 is the coaches, and Dabo Swinney said it. You cannot give a young player that option at that time to do that. You just can't.
Yeah.
I looking if it works, it works, but it didn't work, so it's the wrong play. And if he's a senior, maybe you give a senior that option and he sees it. But if he gives the ball to Will Shipley, and I don't know if you go back and watch the replay, Shipley would have gotten the first down easily.
Mm-hmm.
That's coaching. That is the coach's fault on that play. You don't give him that option. And Dabo said it's built into our offense, but we can't do that there. And that's 100% right. And now, that said, the other side of the ball, especially in the second half, was, I thought, dominant.
Yeah.
I thought looked like, again, they gave up the touchdown in overtime, but that's Keon Coleman making a great play. Lucas is in position. I mean, it's a great play. It's a great throw against a really good quarterback, a really good wide receiver. They're going to make plays. But you hold that team to 17 points in regulation. You never trail in regulation against that offense.
Yeah.
I think says a lot about where this Clemson defense could be going. I thought XT played great. I thought the linebackers played really well. I mean, Barrett Carter, my gosh, in coverage, dropping in coverage and making plays.
Right.
The cornerbacks played really well. Wiggins played well. Lucas played well. The safety, I mean, just every position group on defense, I thought played really well. Florida State had 20 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And gave up. Just said, we can't run the ball. And we're going to, so I thought the defense gives me a lot of confidence that this team can bounce back and win a majority of its games the rest of the way. I don't think they're going to play a better team than they played Saturday. And if they play as well as they played Saturday, I think they win every game left on the schedule. Now you just got to go do it.
Yeah. 11th in the country in total defense. Pardon me, 8th in the country in total defense. 11th against the run. 27th against the pass. Like you mentioned, only 17 points in regulation with dual weapons out there, and maybe Jaheim Bell, who I was upset we ran out of time, didn't bring him up in the preview. I mean, it was pretty well midway through the game, and I'm like, is Bell hurt? Because I knew there was injury that he was fighting through. I just hadn't seen him at all until all of a sudden, there he is, making a catch. So silenced really the tight end option for the most part. Coleman, Johnny Wilson, 6'7", route running hands a little bit in question. I think we saw that again. Boy, Nate Wiggins did a fabulous job pairing up on him. Lucas did a great job on the other side of the field. The Noles were, I think, exploiting Sheridan Jones' physicality, if you will, and not as much of a coverage guy against someone the level of Wilson or Coleman. Lucas answered the call, and it was beautiful to see for a young guy like him. I think he's a sophomore, unless he redshirted and was redshirt freshman, but we saw good things from him last year in small doses. Look, FSU and Duke have combined to only convert 9 of 28 third downs against this defense. I think that is a tremendous indicator of how good they are. Duke with Riley Leonard, Florida State with Jordan Travis, who I think is in his 14th year and is probably going to have to go straight to, the alumni flag football league for the NFL. I don't know if he can, especially if he can get through this lawsuit that got filed today by the Tiger King over the NIL t-shirts.
Yeah, how about that?
But look, I shouldn't slam Travis because that guy played hurt. Clemson did get on him, got hits on him. I thought at one point maybe there was one that could have been thrown as a roughing the passer. They kind of got a 3/4 step, which these days usually will draw a flag. Luckily, no penalty was assessed there. He was feeling so good that he took the brace off midway through the game. I'm not sure it helped him, but at least he felt more comfortable. Look, if it helped him throw that perfect ball in overtime, then he made the right decision there, I'm sure. Just super gutsy performance. Hats off to him totally. You hate to see off the field stuff kind of take away from that a little bit. You also, getting back to the Clemson defense and the third down conversion and just how, again, 8th, I will correct myself again, 8th in the FBS in total defense. And you mentioned stop rate, which is something that Max Olson at The Athletic calculates, and I love his methodology. Uh, how are they measuring up there? And are we finally able to say, hey, Wes Goodwin knows a lot about what he's doing?
Yeah, they're 38th right now. That's lower than I would have thought they would have been with the way the defense is played.
Out of how many
Um,
schools though? 100 and how many?
133 now.
Yeah,
So I mean they're in the upper echelon of that stat
sure.
defensively, and probably have played two of the best offenses in the country and two of the best quarterbacks in the country. And look, I have to tell you, Jordan Travis, I had a lot of respect for him going in this game, have even more respect for him coming
Yeah,
out of it. Because how many
completely.
times, I'm sitting next to Grace Rayner at this game. Grace writes for us at The Athletic, and I would say, oh, he's getting up slow. And, he got popped several
Hmm.
times, and he would get up slow, but he got up every time.
Yeah.
And just gutsy performance by him, like you said. But also, look, I mean, for some reason the disrespect card has become kind of the thing in college football, and we're being disrespected because you're playing man defense against it. That's some of the silliest stuff I've ever heard. He's a college student. I get it. You got to find motivation wherever you can find it. But I'm going to give credit to William Qualkenbush for the stat from the Roar. He said he tweeted this: Jordan Travis targeted Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson 25 times in that game Saturday. They had 10 catches. Now,
Wow.
10 catches is a lot, but that's less than 50% completion rate to those two guys.
Right.
And you think, okay, we're going to hold them to less than 50% completion with those two guys. If you'd have told Wes Goodwin that and Dabo Swinney that before the game, they'd have said, sign me up. We'll
Yeah.
take it. And we're going to find a way to win this game. And, that's kind of the theme, I think, of the Clemson season. For those two games, Duke and Florida State, North Carolina coming up later,
Right.
Duke and Florida State, everything that you've done, you should have won the game except turning the ball over. And you've got to clean that up. And that's what gives me kind of hope is it's not like they got whipped Saturday.
Right.
They controlled the game. They never trailed in regulation, and they controlled what was going on in most of that game. And they just have to stop turning the ball over.
Yeah.
They
More,
and get some turnovers themselves on defense.
sure. I mean, that would be the icing on the cake, and it would be an equalizer. Offense 420 yards plus against both Duke and Florida State.
Right.
And the last thing I want to do, tip my hat to Florida State and give them a ton of credit, is that's usually that fourth quarter is usually when a team is wearing down. They may have played some of their best defense in that fourth quarter, despite the way that Garrett Riley's offense moves guys wide left, move guys wide right, makes them, probably looks reverse to what I'm doing. It makes the defense respect all areas of the field. It keeps them running. And Florida State either had the defense, the depth or the conditioning on defense to measure up in crunch time when it mattered. And all you can do is take your hat off to them and then hope that the Clemson offense will continue to look as good as they did last Saturday when they go up to Syracuse this Saturday. And let's get into that just a little bit. I don't think we want to do a separate on Syracuse. I think with the Tigers being 2-2 and with Syracuse being Syracuse, and uh, I remember last year you were not nervous. I was nervous. I think it ended up being a much rougher game than either of us anticipated, even though
Yep.
my nerves were up. I'll say it again. I have a ton of respect for Syracuse. They make the most of what they have when they match up with Clemson. They seem to know, even though they're a little undersized on defense, kind of like Duke was, they seem to know how to hang in there and fight tough. And, whether they're running stunts, whether it's things that are schematic, whether it's technique, one on one, they always find a way to just, be the sand spur in your shorts of the season, right? So Cade Klubnik has to be ready. He played well against them last year. He bailed out DJ Uiagalelei. And then on the other side of the ball, Garrett Schrader is back. Gosh, how long has he been around? I guess it's his fourth year in the program overall, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Jordan Travis is saying, man, he's been at Syracuse a long time.
Good grief. Hopefully they both get their degrees, unlike Stetson Bennett. You know, we'll see how that goes.
Ouch.
Oh, was that out loud? I don't know.
Yes, it was. Look, Syracuse is 4-0. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
you can't
Clemson's
deny what they've become, what they are, and what they are that have become this year.
Yep, second year in a row that they come into the Clemson game undefeated, and with every right to say, "Hey, this is going to be the year that we get past Clemson again." It's been a while. They have done it. We all know that. Um, I don't know. What do you think is a key to this game, regardless of which side of the ball? Is it the defense still having to contain yet another sneaky, talented guy on the ground, more of a dual threat than you might think, much like Riley Leonard? Of course, we all know it about Jordan Travis. Or is it the offense needing to maintain possession of the football? Because last year, I felt like if there had been no turnovers, it wouldn't have even been close.
Yeah, look, I think it's got to be the turnovers because we've seen that's the theme of the season for Clemson. I'm not even. I mean, it's hard to be upset with how this team is playing.
Yeah.
Other than the turnovers, because I feel like they have played really well. I mean, I walked out of that stadium Saturday thinking, how did they lose that game?
Yeah.
Now I also thought the same thing about the South Carolina game. And I thought they played much better Saturday than they did against South Carolina. There were no huge
Right.
busts on defense. There's just the turnover and, just a couple of mistakes here and there against a really good team. I think Florida State could win out and win the whole thing. I really believe that. So
Good.
With that quarterback and those weapons, who else is going to hold them to 22 yards rushing? I
Well,
don't think anybody is.
I
But
don't
now
know,
their
but I'll tell you
defense,
what, Miami's starting
leaves a
out
lot to
well. North
right.
Carolina's got a shot. I mean,
Their
ton of
defense
respect to
leaves a
Florida
lot
State.
to be desired for sure.
Yes, ton of respect to Florida State for how they won that game. And again, no excuses, but I think they're more beatable than I thought they were coming into that game. And I'm not sure Clemson played its A game on offense, even mistakes notwithstanding. And I think there's every chance that if Miami's going to gain traction, is North Carolina on the Florida State schedule? I'm not sure.
Do you trust Miami?
No, but they have a ton of talent. It's their second year with
Right.
this coach. They're going to be up for that game. That is still a huge rivalry. I mean,
Well,
for
Florida
those of you
State
who don't live
plays
down
Duke.
here.
Right. They play Duke. They do not play Notre Dame.
Yeah.
This year because they've cycled off Notre Dame's schedule. They played Notre Dame a couple times. They do play Miami, obviously.
Yeah.
They play Florida, but they do not play North Carolina, so they
Okay.
don't face Strickland.
Yeah. I mean,
I just think with that kind of quarterback, as tough as he is,
sure.
you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But for Clemson, I still feel like this team, yes, there's more meat on the bone, as we like to say, with this Clemson team. But if they don't turn the ball over offensively, I think they can move the ball up and down down the field on Syracuse. Defensively, it has to be keeping Schrader contained.
Yeah.
Because he's a runner. They're going to run the option with him. They try some misdirection stuff. They're going to try to get your eyes in the wrong spot. They're going to try to get you out of position. And that's different than what Florida State did. Florida State really, I wondered if it was because Travis was banged up. There weren't a whole lot of like, hey, we're gonna run him.
Right.
That it was more just drop back and throw it.
When he had to, he did, but it
Right.
didn't
When he had to,
seem
he ran.
designed
Right.
was
It wasn't
part of the
planned.
equation. Right.
Exactly. But this is going to be planned this week. And you have to keep your eyes where they're supposed to be. You have to do your job and don't try to play hero ball. And if Clemson does that, I think they win the game. I do. But you got to go up there. You got to play in that stadium. You got to play in that environment. It's a noon kickoff again. All of that stuff that you can't control. If Clemson shakes that stuff off, I think they win the game.
Yeah. This isn't like, well, you got Duke in week 1 on a Labor Day and a short week coming ahead, and you could have controlled that by moving Charleston Southern to week 0 and said,
Right.
hey, you've got us playing on an odd day. We don't want a short week coming back. Let us move this game in week 0. Get them to agree to it. Throw in a few more bucks or whatever. Negotiate your way into protecting your team in that way.
Yep.
Yeah, these times get set by TV. It is a long flight up Syracuse. I don't understand why this isn't always, 3:30 somewhere between 3:30 and 8, right? And this isn't a primetime matchup, so it's not going to be 8 o'clock. So I don't understand why there isn't some look. Is there really too many awesome ACC games that cry out to go at 3:30 up against the SEC game of the week? I mean, I think TV should be a little more flexible, talking to.
Especially for this kind of trip, like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And look, it's only going to get worse with Cal and Stanford coming to the ACC,
Oh,
with four schools out west going to the Big Ten, so on and so forth. I mean, it's not just us. There's going to be more of this happening. These long flights, these long trips, and we've seen it mess with Dabo Swinney's preparation in the past to have those long trips to Syracuse, to Boston College, uh, and have a team underperform, quite frankly. I mean, we
right.
got
Well, we
lucky.
saw it to Florida State last week, going to Boston
Yeah,
College. Same thing.
yeah.
Absolutely the same thing.
I
Yep.
think there may have been a little looking ahead on that one
Sure.
too.
I think so too.
I mean, it's
Yep.
not like the year Clemson was looking ahead to the bye week, which was completely embarrassing. I mean, they were looking ahead to, breaking a long losing streak to the other premier team in the ACC of late. Uh, Winning this game is key to staying close to being one of the premier teams in the ACC. And one of the guys on Twitter goes by the Oculus. He did, that Clemson does have a mathematical path back to the ACC championship game,
Sure.
despite the 0-2 conference record at this point of the season. Doesn't seem likely. So Clemson's got to play, I think, for pride. I think Clemson's got to play for, hey, this is what we're building toward. And much like 2 years ago, when the start of the season was disappointing and they rallied and salvaged the year, you and I went to that Cheez-It Bowl and had a good
Right.
time. And it was a strong finish to the year with ACC championship game, with the win over South. Wait, were they? No, wait, they didn't.
They
They
didn't
weren't
make
in
the
the South
championship game.
ACC championship game
Yeah.
that
That
year.
was
Sorry.
Wake and Pitt that year. Yeah.
Self-correction once again. Nice win over South Carolina though, and the nice win to close out the year, and a winning streak to close out the year at that. Um, Now people are saying the opposite about this year's team. Disappointing finish last year, have lost 5 of the last 8 games against Power Five teams. I don't think that's really fair to lump that all together. I mean, it's factual, but I don't think it's an accurate representation of two very different teams with different coach on offense, whole new system on offense, and a
New
changeover
quarterback.
at
Yeah.
quarterback as well. So. Well, we have got to wrap things up here. Let's hope that at Syracuse we'll see Clemson once again trend in the right direction on offense, continue to maintain very strong reputation on defense, and we will be back afterward. Any closing thoughts, Daniel? 20 seconds.
The season's not over. Season's not over. This team has got a lot to play for. You look at Duke's schedule. Could you be shocked if Duke lost 3 times in the ACC? I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. They play Florida State, North Carolina. I mean, they could lose 3 times in the ACC. So, there's a lot to play for, but you just gotta clean up turnovers.
Yeah.
Just clean up turnovers, and you can be a special team.
There you go. YouTube.com/Clemson Kickoff. All our episodes are there. At Clemson Kickoff on Twitter, on Instagram. I was the one live tweeting Saturday during the game. If you didn't like it, don't blame Daniel, blame me.
Don't blame
And
me.
until our next episode after the Syracuse game, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.